My selfish sister begged me for money to rent an apartment and then tried to turn my parents against me when I wouldn't give her more money. So I got her evicted from the apartment and showed my parents that it was me the whole time. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here we are. This happened over the course of 6 months, and I'm still processing everything that went down. My sister Sarah, 27, has always been the golden child in our family. Whatever she wanted, she got. Meanwhile, I, 31F, had to work hard for everything I have. I put myself through college, saved up for my own house, and built a successful career in finance. Sarah, on the other hand, has bounced from job to job and relied heavily on our parents' support. Earlier this year, Sarah called me crying. She explained that she'd found the perfect apartment and needed help with the security deposit and first month's rent. She promised she'd pay me back within 3 months since she had just started a new job. Against my better judgment, I agreed to help her out and transferred $3,000 to her account. The first month went fine. She moved in and seemed to be doing well. Then came the second month and the request started. Can you help me with groceries? My car needs repairs. I'm a little short on rent this month. I helped her out with small amounts here and there, but it was adding up quickly. By the third month, when she was supposed to pay me back, she started avoiding my calls. When I finally confronted her about the money, she exploded. She claimed I was being selfish and that family helps family. I reminded her of our agreement, but she wouldn't hear it. Then things got really ugly. My parents started calling me, saying they were disappointed in how I was treating Sarah. Apparently, she had told them I was harassing her for money she never borrowed and that I was threatening to get her evicted if she didn't pay me. She had completely twisted the story, making herself the victim. That's when I decided enough was enough. I'm not usually one for revenge, but this situation called for it. Remember how I mentioned I work in finance? Well, I have a friend who works in property management. I did some digging and discovered that Sarah had lied on her rental application about her income and employment history. She had also been late on her rent payments multiple times, using my money to cover the gaps. I anonymously reported these discrepancies to her property management company, providing proof of her actual income and employment history. I also included documentation of the money transfers from me that she'd been using to pay rent, showing she couldn't actually afford the apartment on her own. Within 2 weeks, she received an eviction notice. She immediately called our parents, crying about how unfair it was and how she needed help. This time, though, I was prepared. I had compiled all our text messages, bank transfers, and a timeline of events. I invited my parents over for dinner and laid everything out for them. Their faces as they read through the evidence were priceless. They saw how Sarah had manipulated them, lied about me, and taken advantage of my kindness. The cherry on top was when I revealed that I was the one who reported her to property management. My parents were stunned. They apologized profusely for believing Sarah's lies and admitted they had enabled her behavior for too long. Sarah was forced to move back home, where her parents set strict conditions for her stay, including getting a stable job and attending financial counseling. She still hasn't spoken to me since she found out I was behind the eviction, but honestly, I'm okay with that. My parents and I have actually grown closer through this experience, and they've finally started seeing Sarah's manipulation for what it is. The money I lost helping her was worth the lesson it taught everyone involved. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about exposing the truth and letting people face the consequences of their actions. Edit. Thank you for all the support and awards. To those asking, yes, I've written off the money she owes me. I consider it payment for the life lesson she received. On to the next story. My 34F husband, 36M, had an affair and his mother is begging me to stay. I love her like my own mom, but I don't know if I can forgive him. I never thought I'd be writing this post, but I desperately need advice. My world came crashing down 3 weeks ago when I discovered my husband James had been having an affair with a coworker for the past 6 months. Some background: James and I have been married for 12 years, together for 15. We have 2 beautiful children, 10F and 8M, and until recently, I thought we had the perfect marriage. His mother, Sarah, has been more of a mother to me than my own mom, who passed away when I was young. Sarah helped plan our wedding, was there for both of my children's births, and has supported me through every challenge in my adult life. I discovered the affair through a series of text messages that popped up on his iPad while I was helping our daughter with her homework. The messages were explicit enough to leave no doubt about what was happening. When I confronted James, he broke down completely and admitted everything. The woman is someone who joined his company last year. He claims it started as innocent lunch meetings and evolved into something more. He ended it immediately after I found out and has been begging for forgiveness. He's already started individual counseling and wants us to try couples therapy. Here's where things get complicated. Sarah found out about the affair last week, and her reaction surprised me. While she was absolutely devastated by her son's actions, she showed up at my door in tears, begging me to consider giving James another chance. She said she raised him better than this, and that she knows in her heart he's truly remorseful. She reminded me of our family, our history, and how much she loves me as her own daughter. I'm torn apart. On one hand, I love Sarah deeply, and she's right about our family. Our children are happy, and until this betrayal, James was an amazing husband and father. On the other hand, every time I look at him, I feel physically ill. I can't sleep in our bed anymore. I've been staying in the guest room. The thought of him with someone else makes me want to scream. James is doing everything right since the incident. He's completely transparent with his phone and accounts. He cut off all contact with the other woman. He's even offered to find a new job. He cries regularly and seems genuinely remorseful. But is that enough? Sarah calls me daily, not to pressure me, but to check on me and remind me that she loves me regardless of what I decide. She's been bringing meals, helping with the kids, and being the mother I desperately need right now. But I feel like her love and support are making this decision even harder. The children don't know what's happening, but they can sense something is wrong. We've told them mommy and daddy are working through some grown-up problems, but they're smart kids. My daughter asked me yesterday if daddy was going to move away, like her friend's dad did. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to try to save our marriage for our children, for Sarah, for the 15 years we've built together. Another part of me feels like I'll never be able to trust him again, never be able to look at him the same way. Has anyone been through something similar? How do you rebuild trust after such a betrayal? Am I foolish for even considering staying? How do I separate my love for his mother from my decisions about our marriage? I feel so lost and could really use some perspective from people who aren't emotionally invested in this situation. Edit. Thank you all for the overwhelming response. To clarify, yes, James has given me complete access to everything and has started therapy on his own. No, there were no prior incidents or red flags before this. Yes, we're currently sleeping separately, and he's respecting my space while still being present for the children.
On to the last story. I caught my ex lying and it changed me forever. This is something that happened a couple of years ago, and honestly, I'm glad I've moved past it now. I just wanted to share because looking back, it feels like a wild ride that shaped who I am today. I was with this girl for 4 years in total. The first 3 years were great, fun, love, and everything in between. Then, in the 3rd year, we hit a snag. She caught me liking another girl's post on Instagram. To her, that was breaking a boundary we'd set, though it was never a big deal to me. She said I disrespected her, and we broke up over it. Fine. We stayed apart for about a year. Eventually, we reconnected. We ran into each other, where we first met, at university. Things felt familiar. So we decided to stay friends. But, you know how that goes. The attraction was still there, and we got back together for almost a year. At first, everything seemed fine. She got a job, and I was still studying to become a software engineer. We set the same boundaries as before, honesty about anything and everything. But one day, I went through her phone for an unrelated reason and stumbled across texts from her and a guy from work. He was her manager, and the texts were flirty, lovely emojis, playful back and forth. She hadn't told me about him, which pissed me off. When I confronted her, she tried brushing it off like it wasn't a big deal. She said she didn't mean to hide it. But to me, hiding it at all was a problem. I couldn't let it go. I told her to get out of my car, and we went home separately. For days, things were cold between us. We tried to work things out, but my trust in her was shot. I kept replaying everything in my head and developed trust issues. A few weeks later, I decided to do something to shake off the funk. I shaved my hair, a symbolic new me move, and thought, why not surprise her at work? She had this routine where she'd text me when she got off work, when she was in a cab, and when she got home. I followed the same system because, at the time, we were happy with it. But when I showed up to surprise her, I saw her leaving work with some guy. They were walking close, touching even. She hadn't mentioned him, of course. I called her and asked where she was. She said she was heading to the cabs. I asked if she was alone, and she lied again, saying yes. Here's where it gets worse. She went in the opposite direction of the cabs with the guy. I was already upset, but I called her again and asked where she was. She eventually said, "Oh, you're here," and she came over to where I was parked. She refused to talk in the car and started flipping things on me, saying I lied to her about being at home when I was really at her workplace. At that point, I wasn't angry, I just got disappointed when she compared me being at her workplace to her lying about going God knows where with that guy, and I told her to F off and left. She went to the cabs and headed home, and I did the same. That was the breaking point for me. I'm 24 now, and I've grown a lot since then. I have no idea what she's up to, and honestly, I couldn't care less. That experience drained me of emotion, but it also taught me something important. I don't need someone who disrespects me or lies to my face. Nowadays, I'm cold-hearted, but not in a bitter way. I just don't let anyone get close enough to mess with my peace. And for that, I'm glad. What did you think of these stories? Let me know your thoughts about them in the comments, and thanks for listening.